tuned in to the 2-Minute Warning, a live stream community conversation pertaining to social and political issues and how we can collectively resolve them. Powered by the Westside Gazette.
Hi, and welcome to the 2-Minute Warning. The 2-Minute Warning is brought to you by the Westside Gazette newspaper. The Westside newspaper has been serving the South Florida region for the last 52 years. Usually at this point, I would say joining me tonight is the publisher of the Westside Gazette, but he is not with us tonight. But joining me again is my other good brother, Mr. David Wright. David, how are you doing, my brother?
Doing well, man. Fantastic and getting stronger every day. And I tell you, it's just a blessing to be able to sit here with you and stand in for our dear brother, the publisher of the Westside Gazette, Mr. Bobby R. Henry. And as you know, he's a busy man.
Yes.
He's got a lot going on. I mean, when we look back to that show, a couple of weeks ago with the NNPA and how marvelous that went, it just goes to show you how well respected he is in his community, in his newspaper community, black press.
Right.
And
right.
we just owe a lot of homage to the family and all that they do to be the biggest, boldest, baddest black newspaper in Broward County. So, absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Well, man, we picked a heck of a night for a show. We got a lot of hot news going on right now. And, first of which, of course, is news that happened maybe about an hour or so ago. And that was the first time in history that a former president has been indicted. Former president, 45th president, Donald J. Trump was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury today.
And, we all saw the handwriting on the wall. This has been going on for some time. Some people want to know, why did it take so long? But in all honesty, you have to allow due process, especially when it's somebody of that caliber, being a former president. I'm kind of, it's a mixed emotion here. I think we have to follow the law and understand that no man is above the law. But at the same time, I'm kind of hardened because, we expect better. We expect more. But when we look back in history, we've seen tyrants. We've seen people in power that were just totally corrupt. The Bible speaks of it quite often. And we're starting to see it manifest itself more readily today.
Yeah,
and
without a doubt. Yeah.
And I pray that this helps our young people understand that due process is what it's all about. We have to pursue those who have done wrong at every level. And some people will say this level is minor compared to some of the other things that are on the books, right?
Well, a lesson that I'm sure most have learned is, I know it was something I learned when I confronted the law, and that is ignorance of the law is no excuse. And so, perhaps the one thing that I hope that we as a country can resolve, and that is, as you said, the due process of the law, and that no one is of the law. I think to not indict on what many legal experts have said is plain and in front of your face. We've seen those with less of a name and not
Hmm.
quite the account of a Donald Trump uh, get indicted and sentenced and served
Hmm.
decades uh,
Yes.
on lesser uh, witnesses and substantive data.
Yeah.
So on that regard, I do hope that this party that prides itself and this president
Hmm.
that prides himself on being the law and order, uh, the deputies and the maintainers of law and order, that they too will find themselves subjected to law and order.
And this is something I really don't want to belabor because the new media beats it up enough. Um,
Right,
However, it is um, time that we really, you know, pursue those that just have done wrong. Period. And
yeah,
it's no
right,
witch hunt. It's. I mean, when you stack up everything that individuals have gotten away with. I'll say it that way. And because of their wealth, in America we say we have the best law that money can buy. Right? That's how it's been said. That's not
right,
me saying it. That's what I've heard growing up. And then there are always going to be those situations where you truly cannot buy your way out of a situation. So
right,
you know, I do think that we're in the right track. We want to set the right example for our young folks. And case in point, Perry, I did some work at a volunteer work at one of the elementary schools in here in North
hmm
Lauderdale. It's an integrated school, and it was amazing to hear the kids talk about the Jeff Bezos and all the wealthy people and wanting to be like them at an early age. These were second graders. But we don't want them to get the wrong impression that because you're wealthy, you can get away with anything. So, again,
right,
I regress.
yeah, yeah. Um, Man, there are so many ways in which we can go from this one to one of our next topics, but um, uh, you know, this issue hurts the interesting statement that was made, uh, and of course, don't want to be cliche in sending just thoughts and prayers to the families in Nashville. Uh, but in all sincerity, our prayers are with those families and those students who are having to deal with the outcome of this latest act of gun violence. I heard an interesting point that says that uh, when Republicans are quite quick to rush when we talk about crime, but less uh, less interested when the topic is when a part of crime is gun violence. And that
Mhm.
is because crime in itself has taken on this symbol of blackness, and which they are ready to prosecute, while gun violence is something that they hold because it is more Anglo driven when you look at the aspects of this. And so just wanted to get your thoughts about that.
Well, once this situation happened again, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of did a little research. I went back and listened to some Bob Marley, and Bob Marley does a song called "War" and "No
Mm-hmm.
More Trouble," right? And he talks
Right.
about until the philosophy that whole one race superior and another inferior, there'll be this
Mm-hmm.
type of war. And I look at that as one of the reasons why they allow these weapons of mass destruction. And everybody may not get that correlation, but that
Mm-hmm.
that kind of holds to my thought on why. I mean, if we go back and we look at early civilizations, It was when they invaded that continent of Africa. It was the gun that changed the game. So
Right.
I believe that that has a lot to do with why we see their attitudes toward
Hmm.
those weapons.
Right.
Again, we've seen some legislation changed all across the country that continues
Hmm.
to allow that. So um, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think there's nothing anybody can say, black or brown people can say that will change that. What I do want to say though is, we as black Americans were getting killed without guns, right?
Right.
Without
Right.
without these mass destruction
Mass
weapons, without
killings. Right.
yeah, without these AKs and all these. So it's really, I mean, and to see now that doesn't matter when people of the same ethnic background kill themselves. If that doesn't get a rise out of Congress, I don't know what to say, Terry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we got a good guest to help us uh, get a better picture of how this is impacting our youth. We talk about gun violence in school, but we know in our communities that gun violence permeates outside of the school, uh, and just even in looking at some of the post-COVID
Hmm.
data, the rise in crime among
Hmm.
our youth is a growing issue, and especially buttressed up against this criminal justice system now that's sort of run amok. Uh, Thought we would really get to talk to some people on the front line. I know,
Hmm.
most people would think about attorneys, but I know a good brother who I met a few years ago,
Hmm.
and I use that term in the same way that they used in that movie Goodfellas. You know how when you meet a brother, you just know he a good brother.
Yes.
Our guest tonight, our guest tonight, uh, to add some personal relevance to this. I met our first guest in Daytona Beach, Florida, a few years ago at the Fresh Book Festival in Daytona Beach. Donna Gray Banks, who heads that event and has been leading it for the last, I think, maybe 10 years or so. But I met our guest there, and I was there with my first book and trying to get a feel for
Mm.
what it's like to really sell your book. And man, I met this brother who I found out. Not only did he write books, but he had just finished directing a movie. He had been a screenwriter on several projects. And, with someone with that sort of profile and resume, you may be tempted to be a little hesitant to approach him, not knowing really. But our guest tonight, man, we talked like we had been homies for a while,
Yeah.
and I just continue to follow him, and it was through my following him on Facebook that I truly found out that much of his writing is a byproduct of a passion that he has for our youth, and this brother works on the front line with the youth that society would cast out.
Mm.
And if you ever follow Travis Hunter, you will hear him call these children his babies, and he speaks lovingly of them. And so I didn't want to go through all of his books, but I will say I've read. Man, he has a great catalog. I started out
Hmm.
reading A One Woman Man, which
Hmm.
was his first book. Followed that up with Married. Not really.
Not really.
And then Harry was still looking.
Mhm.
Which were books, man, that if the titles alone are striking, but the characters are truly brothers that you can embrace because they're brothers that you understand.
Straight to a
And
player's
so,
heart.
without further ado, Mr. Travis Hunter, not the football player either. Travis, how you doing, my brother? Can we hear you? Oh, look like we got difficult. Travis, are we getting him?
Well, he's
We
on
had him.
screen, but he said he can't hear. Okay.
He can't hear. Okay. But well, while we work that out, what other type, man? We got some other good
There
topics.
was, I'd be remiss if we didn't go to Mississippi, man. It's
Yeah,
such a travesty that's going on in this nation that we have states that still want to just control everything and continue to oppress people and communities right here in the United States of America. Now, my
yeah,
prayer is that President Biden just overrides everything that's going on in that state and bring some kind of rescue and refuge, and not just from the federal level, but this is something as devastating as these tornadoes have been in these areas. We all need to pitch in. We've seen it before in other areas, and just because this is a predominantly black area doesn't mean that they don't get the same kind of support. So I'm interested to see
exactly.
how this plays out and how some of our top leaders, and not necessarily black leaders, I'm talking about this should raise everybody's eyebrows. This
Yeah,
should be on the shoulders. This should be the chip on the shoulders of everyone that loves America, right?
right,
Mississippi is
right,
still in America last time I checked.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it sheds a more of a human light. We sort of use these buzzwords and as opposed to and not and they tend to take the humanity out, i.e.
Mm-hmm.
people will say, oh, the rural community,
Mm-hmm.
and it pits rural and urban communities together because there's
Mm-hmm.
this lack of understanding. But even from an urban from a rural standpoint,
Yeah.
what it uncovered was what was a community in dire need, decades old.
No public transit. No,
Travis.
no, 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 none of that. Yeah. There he
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
There
Travis,
he
can you
is.
hear us?
Yeah, man, I finally got it together over here.
Awesome.
No problem, no problem. Well, man, just tell us a little bit about Travis Hunter. I know, and I not trying to
Hmm.
sound like a groupie, but the brother bring it. So just tell us about it.
Lord have mercy. I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to introduce yourself. I mean, I'm a writer. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. So I don't know. I write books. I mentor kids. I build things and try to fix people in the midst of trying to fix myself.
I hear you. I
So
hear you.
yeah,
Yeah.
introducing myself is not my strong suit, Perry.
I I understand. I know, and that's what I told you. I said, man, we're just gonna have a good conversation.
So then let's ask him
And I
some
know you
questions.
like talking books. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, let's ask him some questions because
Right.
I've been fascinated by everything that Perry said, but we want to go back to some of the beginnings, Travis. Where did all of this start?
Oh man. You know what? I've always been a good storyteller. My mom used to say, I hope you can get paid for them lies one day because you just make up some good stuff. Because so I've always been a storyteller by nature, and I'm from a small town in Florence, South Carolina, so was raised by my great grandparents up until they passed away when I was like 11. And then my mom, she was living in Philadelphia, came to Florence and raised me from that point on. But, I graduated from the great Wilson High School. It was great history because my town is small, but it was once called the Colored High School. And so, my mother graduated from there. My father graduated from there. My aunts graduated from there. So, when I left Wilson, I went to Clark Atlanta, it was Clark College, the first semester. And then the second semester, we came back, it was Clark Atlanta. And so, unfortunately, I didn't stay too much longer after that. And then I left and went back. My pops was tripping. He didn't want to pay. So, I ain't had the money. So I went and, that kind of like planted a seed. Like I was enjoying college. I was doing well, meeting friends from all over the world. And he was just like, nah, I ain't paying for this no more. Just like that. So I had to go back to Florence, right? And so I'm sitting home. All my friends are in college or they doing this. I saw this commercial on TV that said the Army College Fund. $25,000. So I went and signed up for the Army, and because it was like I didn't like the fact that somebody could take something from me, with me not having anything to say about it or couldn't do anything about it. So even though it was my dad, I still like to have that control. I don't like people dangling stuff. So I said I'll go pay for college myself. So I went in the Army. I stayed in the Army for 3 years. Stationed out in Fort Lewis, Washington, and in Korea. And then when I got out the Army, I moved to Ohio with my Aunt Carol, and I went to this little small school called Columbus State. And, I had a night class at Ohio State, and I only stayed there for a year because it was too cold. So I moved back to Atlanta. I got a job working at the bank. And I'm long-winded, but this is how I get started with my writing. So, and it's looking back at it, I feel a little bad about how it kind of started, but it is what it is. And I'm an honest person, so it is what I'm gonna have to just tell it like it is, right? So,
right.
So I was working at the bank, and the movie Boomerang with Eddie Murphy with all of the ladies so I was like, Marcus, all the girls, Travis. So if I didn't want to date him or something, they would be like, you ain't on the down low. I'm like, what is the down low? That was like this. I never even heard of that. So, this is Atlanta, but I didn't know that part of Atlanta. I don't know anything about the gay community or the down low community, right? So I'm baffled. Like, what do you mean on the down low? Like, so then one day I'm riding to work, and Elin Harris is on the radio talking about these regular guys on the down low, sleeping with other men, right? So now I'm really offended because I'm from the South. You can't be calling me like that. You can't even talk about my mama. Like, come on, man. So I don't know what it was, but I just was like, man, this is crazy. You'll be accused. It's just, I just took it some kind of way. Like, what kind of vibe am I giving off, right? But it wasn't even that, because they was like, it's just regular guys sleeping with other guys, but they're hiding it. So anyway, I worked at the bank for a couple of years. I got laid off. I don't know what it was, man, but I just said, I'm going to write my own book. I always like reading. I have this Aunt Nisa, she passed away, and she used to snatch the book out of my hand and be like, boy, you good stories as you tell, you need to write your own book. I don't want to see you with another book until you write your own. Like, she would just do stuff like that, and it's kind of planted the seed. So, all right. So now I'm saying I got laid off. I ain't got nothing else to do, right? I already didn't like work. I was late every day for 3 years straight. I was on every probation they had. They even changed my hours and didn't tell me, and I'd still be late. So anyway, and so I just decided I'm going to write this book, right?
That's not Atlanta traffic, though, right?
A little bit of Atlantic traffic, but a lot of me just getting up late, I guess they just like me, man. They never did fire me, man. I was late every day. Like, I didn't even tell them no more. I just go sit at my desk. At 5 minutes later, I'm all the way in customer service, someplace I ain't got no business talking to people I ain't got no business talking to. And I was a gross misuse of their dollars at that bank because they got no work done. So, and then people call in. I worked in the fraud and collection department. Somebody call in and be like, somebody stole my card. All right, no problem. Boom. No investigation, just give them the money back. So, I mean, I was just terrible, right? But anyway, so I got laid off. I had some time, so I'm like, I'm going to write a book with some positive black men. And that was what I said. I'm going to write a book with some positive black men. I didn't even know how I could write a book. I never even tried to write a book. So it was just God intervention, you know, so this all it was. So I sat down, I wrote this book, and I sent it to my Aunt Niecy. And so she was like, boy, this thing is good. What's wrong? Oh my God, Travis, you know, but I had like stupid stuff. And like the dude bought a 10-carat ring and he worked at a little, you know, making $10 an hour. She was like, no. You know, she fixed that kind of stuff. Like, she can't afford 10 carats.
Fix that flat.
Yeah, he can't afford 10 carats. Let him get a half a carat. That's fine. Like, okay, I ain't know. So anyway, I wrote this book. And so I had my Aunt Carol, who she actually helped me, you know, pay for the books because I was laid off. I was living off of my, you know, my little severance package, and I had a small child. He was only like 5 years old. So my Aunt Carol helped, you know, stepped in and helped me pay for the books to get, because I was self-published. I didn't know nothing about the book industry. I just saw this book one day called The Self-Publishing Manual. I followed that, printed up all of these books. I had 2,000 books in my garage. And I quickly found out that I did not have 2,000 friends and family. So I even tried to commit insurance fraud.
Especially 2,000 who would read.
Right. So I'm now like I don't have a vision, right? So one day I tried to commit insurance fraud. I was gonna burn them up, and, you know, and tell the insurance company my garage caught on fire, but they wouldn't even burn. Right? I'm like, what kind of paper gonna burn? So I'm like, you know what, man? I'm gonna mess around, try to burn my whole house up, trying to commit insurance fraud. So anyway, I quickly let that one go, and so I went to this expo in Chicago, and you know, Eric Jerome Dickey, right? You guys know him. You know, he passed away. Yeah. So that's my brother. That's my brother. But I didn't know it cost like $1,000 to get into this expo. It's called the BEA America. Well, I heard about it from the guy here in Atlanta named Michael, worked at the Shrine of the Black Madonna. So he was like, your book is selling good here, Travis. Why don't you go to Chicago, meet some other booksellers? It's all right. I go up there for that. So I get there. It's $1,000 to get in. I'm about to go back to the Red Roof Inn because that's all I could afford to stay in, right? By the airport with the, you know, with the CB carriers. So I'm standing out front waiting on my cab, and then Eric walks up and he got all these white people holding his bags, carrying his bags, and you know, he's just chilling like, "What's up, dog?" You know how it is when two black people see each other in a sea of white people, kind of give each other the little nod.
Yeah.
So he was like, "What's up, dog?" And I was like, "This is the importance of honesty, right? Because a lot of people try to act like they're doing better than they are, especially in front of people who you know are successful, right?" Mm-hmm. So he was like, "You coming in?" I was like, "No, man, it costs $1,000 and I ain't got it." So he was like, "Oh man, come on, you can come in with me." He didn't even know me, right? So he's like, "What you got?" So I gave him a copy of one of my books. So he was like, "Oh man, this is dope, man." You know, he's reading the book. So he's like, "How many you got?" I'm like, "Man, I got a shoulder full of them. They about to break my shoulder." So I came to give them out. So he's like, "All right, just roll with me." So, you know, people running up to him, Eric, oh, hi, Eric. So he's like, give them a book. So everybody he's telling me to give books to are like movers and shakers in the book industry, major publishers, major editors. And so, you know, I get later on that it's funny. This is crazy how life works, right? So Eric, I'm not used to just men being nice just because it's another black man, right? So he was like, "Let me get your number, man." You know, he gave that whole day. I'm giving out books whoever he told me to give them to. So after it's over, he said, "Let me get your number. There's some stuff going on tonight, some parties and stuff you should come to." I'm like, "All right." So he gave me my number. He called me at the Red Roof Inn and was like, "Yo, man, I'm gonna send a car for you. It's a party." I'm like, "You ain't gonna send no car for me. You send a car for women. You don't send no car for me. I'll catch a cab. Give me the address." So I'm already like, I'm gonna have to swing on Eric. You know, what kind of, this dude being a little too nice. So, you know, so we get to the place and he's like, "Yo, Travis, come on in." So it's this party called the Blackboard. Back then it was Essence used to have this bestseller list, and it was the blackboard, and they had a party, right? So I didn't know nobody, right? But Eric knows everybody. So he's like, come on in, Travis, come on. So he's introducing me to more people. So I became Eric's guy, right? Like his mentee.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, all right, Travis, let's get up out of here, man. We're going to go to another party. Now, keep in mind, I was giving out books to these big editors all day, right? So I said, what kind of party are we going to? Like, I'm already, look, man, I'm going to swing on you, dog. Like, what's up? So he's like, nah, man, don't worry about it. Come on, let's go. So we go. I'm all right. We get in the little car service he got. We go to this party. I'm like, where we going? Oh, we going to one of my friends. He got a party at his house. It's like Eric is cool. He hadn't showed any kind of homosexual tendency. He's just a regular cool dude, right?
Right.
But that's just me on my stupid stuff. So anyway, I'm sitting there looking like, all right, I'm gonna roll with you. You've been nice so far, so but freaks come out at night. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to swing on this dude, right? So we go to this really nice place, right? This high rise in Chicago overlooking Lake Michigan, right? So we get in there, and I see Carl Lewis, like the runner, the track star, and he's the first person I seen, right? And I'm like, man, what the hell? Okay, so what the hell? What kind of party is this, right? So Elin Harris comes out the back. And he says, Travis Hunter, I'm pissed off at you. So I'm thinking, damn, I'm going to have to fight this dude up here. I done said something to somebody and then got back to him. And so he's like, I'm mad with you. I'm like, oh, Lord. So I'm playing it cool, though. I'm like, what you mad at me about? So he's like, I didn't get my nap today because of you. Janet his editor was one of the ones who got the book earlier at the expo. She gave him a copy. And he said, I didn't get my nap because I kept saying, one more page. So anyway, temperature went down a little bit, right? So he introduced me to everybody, and, it was a real cool night. Everybody was nice. His apartment was amazing. Like, I'm like, oh, my God, I didn't know people was living like that. Not black people, right? I mean, this was crazy. So anyway, I get back home. So like a week later, I started getting all these phone calls from these publishers who want to offer me a deal for my book, The Hearts of Men. So, I signed a book deal with Random House, same people Elin Harris has signed with. Now, this is the guy who I was pissed off about this download stuff, right? And all of a sudden, I'm with the same publisher he's with. So they gave me like 4 cities as a tour. So he called me, Travis, how many cities you got? I'm like, I got 4. So he's like, I'll call you right back. So he called me back like 20 minutes later. You got 12 now. I'm not going to let them do you like they do black authors. And he's like, and because you're 6'3", you tell them you need to fly first class. I'm all being humble. I'm just happy to be in the door, right? So he's like, no. You tell them you too tall to be flying coach. You flying first class. And when you on the weekends, if you want to take your son on tour with you, you tell him you need a suite. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, but he's Elin Harris. He's a big deal there, right? So whatever he says goes. So all of a sudden, I'm at these nice hotels, flying first class. They kind of taught you how to be rich. You get car services, staying at these beautiful hotels. Like, I can't go back to the Red Roof Inn. I'm bougie now. So anyway, man, that's my long-winded way of telling you how I got started.
Man, but that's amazing. That's truly amazing. And Terry, go on, because you know this, brother, man. I'm looking to see how this segues into what you're doing now, because.
Oh, you're talking about the foundation, the Hearts of Men.
The Hearts of Men Foundation.
Yeah. So,
right.
Okay. I skipped.
But I hear some of that. But I hear some of that, Travis, in what you were saying, and that you were honest enough to recognize some of your stupidity.
Right.
What I hear you share. What I hear you share though on a regular day though is encountering youth who were just like you. So how did that come about?
Okay, so
to work.
This is how the foundation got started, right? My little cousin was in town and my son, and so I cooked breakfast for them. They were both small kids. I cooked breakfast, but they didn't want to eat. They want to play games, right? So I'm mad because I done got up and cooked. And I'm like, man, there are kids out here that don't even have, that wish they had somebody cooking them breakfast. So my little cousin, he was like, they can have this. So I'm like, you know what, little smarty pants, let's take it to them. So I took them both on a little hood tour. And so there was this little kid playing in the street. So I'm like, man, you got to get out the street, man. You're going to get hit by a car. So I was just taking them to the hood to show them like abandoned houses and all of this stuff, right? So it was school closed. It was time for them to go to school. So I was going to take them school shopping later on that day. So, you know, the little kid that was playing in the street, I was like, where do you live? He was like, right there. So I'm going to go tell on it, right? I pull over. I was like, come on, man, you're going to get hit by a car. So I go knock on the door. This lady, it's like maybe 11 o'clock, and she's drinking, sitting at the table with a bottle of vodka. Get your little ass out the street. I guess that was her discipline. So, you know, kids, my son and my little cousin was like, you know, we going to the mall. So he was like, I want to go. So, you know, me being a sucker, I can't tell a little kid he can't go, even though I don't know him. So anyway, I take him to the mall. I get him some school clothes too, you know, not much, some little shoes from Marshalls and a couple of little pair of pants from Marshalls and stuff like that, right? So I take him back home. We went to like Dave and Buster's or something. I think we did Dave and Buster's or something. We just had a good little day after we went shopping. So I took him back home, and he was like, well, I'm going to see you again. So I was like, huh? We'll figure something out. So I was like, I'll come get you next weekend. So the next week, man, it was like 10 kids out there. I want some shoes. I need a shirt. Look at my shirt. And I was like, oh, Lord. So I called up one of my buddies, and that's how the foundation got started. We just started, you know, mentoring those little kids right there. And then it just, one day in 2008, I got a call from somebody. One of the kids' older brother was locked up or something, and he wanted a book. So I took him a book. And then the director was like, yo, man, you mind coming in here doing like a little speech or something? So I was like, yeah, that's cool. So I went in and did a little speech to the kids. And they was like, when you coming back, man? So the director was like, yo, would you be interested in coming up here a couple of days a week, you know, working with the kids? So I was like, nah, no problem. So I started going to DeKalb Regional Youth Detention Center. And so I would just go in there, and then I, you know, 1 or 2 days led to me just going all the time. And, you know, they had all, you know, a lot of churches donate books. So those kids wasn't interested in reading Gone with the Wind and, you know, these white books, right? So I just threw all those books away. And I just started hitting up my publishers, my friends, and I created my own library in there. So I would have to have them check out books. And then we started a book club. Then we started a writing club. Then we started an acting club and a screenwriting club. So it just turned into me just going there all the time and, you know, working with them. So, you know, I'm still at it.
Wow, man, you know, that's powerful.
You make it sound so right. You make it sound so ordinary, but I mean, you as a writer, you tend to tell more in your writings about it, and I know there are times where you have encountered some very drastic situations. But looking on that, I mean, and seeing what you do, I guess one of the things I want to ask is, you get to see the kids come in who, I guess for the most part, communities have abandoned, abused, and done all sorts of misdeeds too. And in many cases, you become that first guy, that first man that they really see that brings discipline as well as compassion and everything else. What is it that we can do in the community such that that we can even help stem off some of that?
I mean, you know, honestly, man, we gotta get back to that village mentality. You know, I was just telling my son last night, like, we can, you know, when I grew up, I had 4 mothers and 1 father, right? My uncle was my father. Well, 2, 3, 4, my uncle and my other uncle, all of them. Any of them could slap you across the head. You couldn't go back and tell your mom, Uncle Dick slapped me, what he slapped me for? You're going to get slapped again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
But, you know, we got away from that. Once drugs hit our community so bad, it's you know, we kind of got away from that village mentality, but also getting involved in local politics, because Georgia has this thing called the 7 deadly sins. So it's 7 different crimes that's an automatic 10 years. No matter if it's your first offense or not, automatic 10 years. Most of the kids that I encounter get the 10 years for carjacking. Even if you're in a car that somebody stole, that's considered carjacking. And they just create situations that kids can't win. I lost you. I lost hearing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah,
okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
It's just the local. I mean, they just there was this. Let me back up. There was this, I used to write songs, right? One of my friends named Trey Lorenz, and so I was in New York at this studio one time, and this is before I wrote books, anything, right? So I'm in the studio, and we're there all day. So we're about to leave, and there's the head of this major record label, right? He's about to leave too, and so he's going up. He's going in the elevator up. So I said, "You live in the building?" So he's like, "Nah, hop on." So I get on the elevator. He has a helicopter waiting to take him wherever he's going, right? And so I said, "Dang, this I didn't want to say the name of the company because then you know who the name of the person is, and I don't want to get sued." So I'm like, "Dang, they paying you pretty good, right?" So he's like, "Yeah, they do all right. But if you really want to make some money, Travis, invest in prisons." Now, this is like 1992 or 3, something like that, right? I didn't even know you could invest in prisons. But these folks are so far ahead of us, right? They send these lobbyists to DC to criminalize everything. Back when I was in high school, the prison population was like 700,000. There's over 3 million people in prison now. And it's not that people got worse. They just criminalized blackness, brownness, and so
Poorness.
we are the poorness. Yeah, it's a class system. So
everything we do, yeah,
right. So it's so many people in prison now for stuff that really don't even belong in prison for. And it's almost like, and then rap music came along, and so this just takes me back to the executive who said invest in prisons. Now he's direct. He can put his hand directly on the button on what kind of music comes out. So when you see these young men, when I grew up, I spent all my school clothes money on sweatsuits because LL Cool J and Run DMC looked cool to me in my impressionable mind, right? So now these kids are talking about drug use.
Not to mention, though, but I should tell you this, though. I should tell you this. They, my daughter called you the LL Cool J of lit.
I'll take that.
We've had some viewers, Travis, that have posted some things, basically telling you the real deal. I think Ms. Blackman basically had posted some of that, and we can get some of our viewers' input to just let you hear your accolades. I don't know if you can see them in the chat.
No, I can't see
Ari, I don't
anything.
know if you can post 1 or 2 of those comments that we're getting from some of our viewers. But Travis, you got some fans out here tonight, so I just wanted you to know that.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Rachel Johnson. I mean, we got a few people that says, "Look, so true, Travis. With all of these crazy laws and these with no protection, the village mentally is in the way. Yeah, is the way. We grew up in the village, so we know it's the way.
But we got to stop being scared of these kids. They are dangerous, right? They are dangerous. Mm-hmm. But I get up 3:00 in the morning sometimes. I get phone calls. I think Perry's talking about some of those stories I post where I get a call. One time, let me tell you about this one particular story. This older lady called me, right? And my number's been the same for 30 years. So, the kids call me. So I get this call like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. "Mr. Travis, come over here now." I'm like, "Well, where are you?" She gave me the address. I jump up, I go over there. The kid done OD'd, right? He done got into some drugs and something. So by the time I get there, the police are already there. No ambulance, but the police. And so this boy is foaming at the mouth, right? And so they asking him, "Where you get the drugs from?" And I'm like, "Dude, can't you do that later? Can't you get this boy to the hospital?" "Who are you?" So the grandmother was like, I told him to come here. I didn't tell y'all to come here. She's cussing and carrying on. So I'm like, "Man, I'm taking him to the hospital." They're like, you're interfering with an investigation. I'm like, well, you're just gonna have to lock me up when we get to the hospital, right? So I actually put him in my truck, drove him to the hospital. But they looked at this young black boy who was obviously he was in medical distress, but he was a criminal to them. They were only worried about where did he get the drugs. So that's the kind of stuff that pissed me off. I done cussed out all the police at the hospital. I'm calling them all kind of MFs and sorry pieces of Sambos. And Mr. Hunter, you say one more word, you're going to jail. F you, that's 2 words. I'm going off. I'm carrying on like because I'm like very passionate about my little young, especially black boys, because it's just they just became prey. Prey to the system. They're prey to these rappers who glorify violence and drugs, and they get that in their mind. I see so many kids come from suburban great homes, 2-parent households, and they up in the juvie center because they trying to be like NBA YoungBoy or doing whatever he said. And but my son just told me, he said he sees a shift coming because certain rappers are starting to talk a little bit more positive now, and so hopefully that will take a hold of it, and we'll just we can have a little help because the rappers can change things themselves. When they stop because dumb stuff, the kids will stop doing it.
Well, we got a comment here from Aaron Prince, and if we can just view that, Travis, because basically she's telling you,
Aaron is a dude. That's my guy.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, okay. I guess y'all related, but
that's cousin.
Yeah. Well, they're saying. You just dropping the real knowledge, basically. So
I paid him to say that.
And Keep the Faith with Tori says definitely a great storyteller. She says, hey Travis, the Golden Bear from Darlington, Washington.
All right.
But you often talk about Florence, and I'm from a small town in Texas, and comparing that to Atlanta, I mean, what changes are you seeing, and what are you trying to get ahead of? Because what is happening in Atlanta definitely comes to Florence. So how do you see that happening, even in some of our smaller towns?
Yeah, Florence is growing, man. I'm so proud of my little hometown, man. It's just growing, man. Every time I go home, I'm seeing a new building. They're turning downtown into a really nice area now. But I was very fortunate growing up. So I always went to Philadelphia. And so I had a little bit of that big city life and then Southern life. And then my dad was always here in Atlanta. So I would come down and visit him in Atlanta. So I always was able to move around a little bit. And, my dad told me I was a home wrecker because him and my mom were fine until I came along. Like I knocked on the door. Like I just knocked on the doors. Hey, can I come up in here? Clown. But anyway, Florence is growing, man. I love it. I love going home and, it's, seeing the growth in the turning into a little nice sized little city now. So, but of course it still has its, rough areas, and you have some people who, in that small town mentality, who do the same thing every day, eat the same thing every day, go to the same places, see the same people, and just never expand. But, I try to go home and I still hang out in the hood. I don't care about all of that. I'll be right over there. I don't stay long, but I go say what's up. I go say what's up.
Yeah. In fact, Bobby Henry, publisher, wanted to know, do you know the Stennies?
I do know some Stennies. I went to school with Lynette Stenny. Yeah, and she went to Wilson with me. She lived in my neighborhood. That's the Stenny that pops out of my head. So yeah. Right.
Okay. But in terms of your foundation, going back to your foundation and working with the youth, how have you seen that as a way to reduce the recidivism and even to build hope in some of your students? I know you got some stories. You've talked about them. Really want to let our audience hear.
My program, I have 80% success rate. So 80% of my kids don't come back when they get out. And they call me the guards. They don't like me because I cuss them out because they be bullying the kids, right? But
Right.
you know, they don't bully them when I'm around. I'm like, oh, wait a minute now. You nice today, aren't you? But when I'm not around, the kids, oh, Mr. Hunter, he hit me. And then I go hit him, and you know, I go talk to the guard. I don't hit him. I don't hit the guard, but I go talk to him. And
Right.
then, you know, I'm like, what's your problem, man? That little boy is 14 years old. Like, you know, what's your problem? Mr. Hunter, these little kids, man, you need to go get another job if you can't be patient with kids. You know, you're not here to punish them. You're here to make sure they're safe. You know, you're not here you're not here to punish them. You know, so I have to get them some get right. But the guards call me the child whisperer. But I find mostly with the kids, you know, a kid might throw a desk at me, right? But I don't get mad at the kid because I know I ain't did nothing to him. So he's acting out in some kind of way, right? He didn't hit me. So, you know, I'll go, the guards will come rush in, try to rough him up and put him in with cool down, which is lockdown. They call it cool down in the juvie system. But, you know, I'll go talk to him, find out what's going on. You know, may find out his grandmother died. He's angry. He don't know how to express himself. Or he got sentenced that day to 2 years in prison over a school fight, you know, something silly like that. I got in a couple of fights in school. I got a 3-day suspension and came right back to school. Now you get in a fight, they come police, they lock you up. So, and I think getting in little fights is, you know, it's kind of like a rite of passage of
growing up. Yeah,
it's growing up. You know, you figure out how to work out conflicts with each other. Either we can talk it out or we can duke it out. But either way, ain't nobody gonna get killed. You know, you just move on. But now they don't even allow you to do that. They just lock you up. And so, you know, sometimes when kids do things like that, I understand where it's coming from. And, you know, that's why I suggest when people try to have children, wait till you're a little older, you're a little bit more patient, you know, because you growing up, when the child growing up, that's a recipe for disaster. Then we have so many kids that are just born to parents that just shouldn't have kids at all, you know, and then they figuring it out on their own, and Lord have mercy. And then some kids are just, I hate to say it, but they're just so far gone. They just, grandmother was in prison, daddy in prison, uncle in prison, cousin in prison. That's kind of their rite of passage. So, you know, they're like, that's just the way it is in my family, and they gonna do stuff like that. And so, you know, but you can save the ones you can, and the ones you can't. I'd be bribing my kids, man. I go buy $300 worth of cheesesteaks. I go order 25 cheesesteaks, and I'm like, all right, everybody who don't get in trouble today can get a cheesesteak. This was a great day. Everybody quiet. You know, I'm always sneaking in contraband, Snickers, sodas, stuff that they want. And I got a big bag. They're like, Mr. Hunter, what's in that bag? Books. Books. Ain't no book smelling like that. That's my lunch. You know, then I tell a kid to come in the library, come on, hurry up, eat, hurry up, quick. You know, but they like that kind of stuff, and then they want to be around you because they know you care about them. You know, a lot of them tell me all the time, man, Mr. Hunter, man, you the first dude I ever loved. I'm like, wow, man. You know, and they'll say, no homo, ain't no gay stuff. I'm like, man, nothing wrong with you loving another man that's looking out for you. That's a good thing. That's not a weakness. You know, so you know, but you know, they grow up with how they grow up, and you just got to meet them where they are.
And you know, when you say that, Travis, especially for young men, juveniles, that, like you said, have had some of those rocky paths in their family history, and probably have never received any kind of what we would call that masculine fatherly love that's important in molding us to be that individual that we know we can grow up to be, you know, to reciprocate some of the things that you are doing and helping additional young brothers come up to understand the right road, the right way to go. And that's so important. You know, I go back to our legacy and our history, and there were men in our community that would do those things. Yeah, there would be some discipline, some hard discipline on one side, but on the other side, you know, they showed they cared.
Right.
And that's what was important, man. You got to go fishing. They fed you. You know what I mean? You learned some things.
That's right.
And there was some respect there as you talked about that village. So man, kudos. We getting a lot of chatter in the chat as well. Uh, People loving exactly what you're saying.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, looking at this thing today, Trump got indicted, right? So, now they always, it's so unfair. It's so unfair. I see little young boys getting 2 and 3 years for a fight. But some people are so used to privilege that being held accountable sounds like oppression to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I see it all the time. Like if I get a little white kid coming there, even the guards treat the white kid different. Like, they as soon as a black kid coming, they don't never have to see this kid before. He's just another N-word, right? Little white kid coming there. Oh, what's going on with him? They're gonna make sure they dot all their I's and T's before they even engage that kid. Then once they find out he a poor white kid, then they treat him like the rest of them. But they gotta make sure first. They gotta make sure first.
Right.
One of my favorite little white kids' name is, they call him Vanilla Kodak. And Lord have mercy.
You've written about Vanilla
Kodak.
That's my little buddy right there, man. He can't play basketball, but demand to be on the team all the time. He won't even get off the court. Ain't nobody gonna pick him. They're not gonna pick him, so he'll just stand there. So somebody said, "Man, come on!" And so then he throw the ball over a whole goal. And I'm getting better. No, you're not. So, but when he first got there, he was so scared. He was so scared that he peed on himself. And so one of the nurses called me and she was like, "Mr. Hunter, can you help him out?" So I went to this gang leader. He really shouldn't be in no gang. He's so smart, so brilliant. But that's just how he grew up. He just, And so I went to him and I was like, "Yo, man, look out for him, man." So he's like, "All right, I got it, Mr. Hunter." So after, let's say, about 2 weeks later, he done got into it with so many people. The dude that I told to look out for him, Mace, told Mace to look out for him. Mace done got put in cool down because he done got in a fight because somebody was messing with him. Now Vanilla Kodak is all these other kids in lockdown behind him, and he's not in lockdown. And he's
That's how it happened.
Yeah, he the one starting everything. So I'm like, what was wrong with you? So Mace like, "Mr. Hunter, I'm done. I don't care. I love you, but I ain't fooling with that boy no more. Like, he ain't scared of nobody. He's just crazy."
He done.
So he got out, right? He got out.
Yeah.
He was so scared when he got there, but he ended up getting out. He didn't want to leave. So he was like, they was like, "Man, how you institutionalized after 3 weeks?" So he's like, "Man, Mr. Hunter is like a cool dad who punch people in the chest but don't really mean to hurt them, even though he's too big, like a big old puppy, hitting people too hard. And y'all are my brothers, man. And I ain't got nothing at home but a fat mama on meth." So, like 2 weeks later, he came right back. He just sprayed his mama with some roach spray, and she called the police, and he got locked up for assault.
Bring him back, huh?
But he came back because he found like a family atmosphere, even though it was in jail.
Yeah, we hear that quite often. But as the clock rolls down, my brother, I do want to just ask one or two questions, and then I'm gonna let my brother Perry kind of summarize everything and close us out. But Brother Hunter, how can we clone a brother like you?
Don't do that.
Through your foundation.
Don't do that.
Well,
don't do that.
In what you're doing for our community now, and as much as you shed light on what you're doing, we know there are not enough of you out there, and there are going to be those that don't run into a Travis Hunter. So for some of our viewers and people that are listening right now, that you could possibly impact, or hopefully people that view this show later can be encouraged to commit themselves to being that village, being a part of that village, and supporting our young people. What would you say to them?
I say the women are doing their job. It's the men, we got to step up and do a little bit better. We got to get involved. And, we get so caught up in providing for our immediate family and not knowing that little boy who you neglected may be the one that put a gun in your face one day or carjack you. And, we got to stop being afraid of them. And then just go out there and get involved. Just go out there, go to a group home. If you're afraid of going to the juvies, go to like a little group home or foster care and get involved. Or go to your local schools Start a men's program. Teach them little young boys how to tie a tie. Just go one day a week. Go get with the principal, get with the superintendent or whoever. And most of the time you can just get with the principal. Say, hey, listen, I want to do something with your young men. And start a little local program in your elementary schools. Teach them how to stand up when they meet a man and shake his hand, how to look him in the eye, how to not shake somebody's hand sitting down, or, men stuff. Some of kids don't even know how to wash. They don't know how to brush their teeth. Little stuff. You can start a men's group at your local elementary school, middle school. Middle school is really important if you can get there, because that's that little age where they start being crazy. That's the I said I was going to eliminate the word crazy from my vocabulary, but that's the age where the hormones start kicking in, and they just confused. But if they have some strong male figure in their life, they can probably get over that hurdle and always volunteer with Little League football or baseball or basketball or whatever. I hate when coaches cuss kids out, from high school below, because they're learning. Their mind's not strong enough. You think that's hard coaching, but it's sometimes, it's make a kid don't even want to come out. I don't want to get cussed out for messing up. But, when you do have the audience of children, you got to be more of a psychologist than a coach, or, you gotta dig into what works for that kid, not and get rid of your own ego, because everybody know you're in charge. So, okay, let's figure out how to make little Johnny better, the best he can be. So just get involved, man. Even if you just go to a foster care and bring some suitcases. Every time kids move from foster care, they got these big trash bags. But they can have a little pride if they had a little nice little suitcase, or a little roll bag, something to call their own. It's nothing to us, but it's a big deal to a kid who has nothing.
Yeah.
Little things like that, man. If everybody do a little bit, we can do a lot collectively.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that, my brother.
Yeah.
So you should, and another thing, I don't want to have this without talking about one of the biggest things that you do, and that is as a writer. And one of the things that I found out is, while I understand many of your readers are probably predominantly women, your books are really geared toward helping Black men understand themselves in a fictional character. How much of that, do we still need to cultivate? Not just in young brothers. I'm talking some old brothers who just flat up jacked up, man.
Bro, age don't mean a damn thing. I know this dude's 65 years old, man. He act like a 5-year-old, so age don't really mean a thing, man. It's just, right. My books are always geared towards the male psyche, and a lot of women read them because they want to understand men. And, but, I'm going to just keep on doing what I'm doing, man. And I can only do my little part. Hopefully I motivate people to get on board and, put the work in. I spend so much money of my own money with my foundation because I hate begging for money, and but the work needs to be done. So, I just put,
Well, we're not going to invite you on here without helping to promote your platform. And I know I've helped, donated books. I love my hoodie with my with Travis Hunter, Jim Rose Publishing. Yeah,
that's right.
And tell us about Jim Rose Publishing. I mean, because that spares.
So those are my great grandparents that raised me. Jim, this is my grandfather, and Rose is my grandmother. So when I was self-published, I had to create a publishing house to actually publish my own book, right? So that's how I came up with that name. I got my great grandparents that was just like amazing. They raised everybody. It wasn't just me in the house. It was everybody. And this goes back when the days when, when Christmas would come and Granddaddy would barbecue a hog and we could stay up all night and everybody came from Philly and DC and we would just, all the family got together and no drama, Nobody fussing, cussing each other out because everybody respects grandmother and grandfather.
That's
right.
right.
So,
Right.
Those days are the days that was just amazing. You get to meet your cousins from DC. Shout out to Carnell and Tony. I know they listening. Let me say, my Aunt Carol, who helped me out with my book. I got word today that she's under the weather. She just got back from Egypt, so hopefully Aunt Carol gets well soon. And we wishing her a speedy recovery.
Man,
awesome, man. Those bring back some country memories. There,
that's right, boy.
4th of July,
Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. That's when everybody comes home. Granddaddy,
right.
Granddad, it's brutal though. I remember my granddaddy shoot the hog in the head with a 22.
Yeah,
they hang it upside down, and him and my uncle would skin it, and I'm like, I was just playing with that hog yesterday.
they might fight.
You don't play with your food.
Yeah, they done killed Tommy.
and fighting over the mountain horses.
Yeah. No, now I don't even eat pork. And he had to kill Tommy. Come on, granddaddy.
But okay, but no, man, we are getting close to the hour, man. And Travis, thanks so much, man.
Hey, man,
but
thank
before
you guys
we go, we wanted to put up the URL for the foundation. And again, I encourage everyone, please go out, take a look at the foundation. Check out Travis's catalog. There's a book I know in there for you. I just appreciate the brother comes up with great titles. That if a book can grab you from the title and keep it to the back cover, then that's the sign of a good storyteller. And Travis Hunter is a great storyteller. So man, I invite all of you who are readers. Who are readers. And then the brother at least gave me a little pat on the back and told me my little debut novel, you're working it. So I appreciate you at least giving me some sign of encouragement and allowing your kids to read it.
Yeah, that was the book club one time. Right after I first met you, that was the book that we read. I think I posted something on Facebook about it a while back, a long time ago when the kids read it. So my juvenile book club, I challenged them to read things that's outside of their wheelhouse, and so that was one of the first books that was outside of the stuff that they normally they already know, they already know. So I appreciate you actually introducing me to your work. So.
Well, before we go, we just gonna put it out there, brother Travis, that these books, they can make it to the big screen. So if the Tyler Perry, the Bill Dukes, and all of those great producers, directors out there want to do something with them, I'm sure you'll be more than willing to oblige them.
TravisHunter.com. Let's make it happen. I actually did one of my movies myself. You see that poster back there?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually did my Dark Child. Yeah, I did my 8th book. I did a short film on it. I wrote it, produced it, and directed it. So I'm actually almost finished with my another movie now called Hit Squad, which is about a small town high school football team that used to be really good, and now they suck. So the guys that was on the team that was really good, they come to the game every Friday night now, but they like 20 years ago, and they be drunk. One of them crackhead, one of them schizophrenic, one of them, and then they want to fight the new coaches. So they get locked up one night for fighting the new coaches, and the judge sentenced them to coach the team.
Yeah.
So it's a journey. It's really a coming of age story, but it's comedy too, because they just a big, all of them a mess. One of them's a preacher who don't know the Bible. And, it's just a mess. So, he's just up there winging it every Sunday. Matthew 16 verse 32 says. That's not no. Follow along with me. Can nobody follow along with you?
Oh man! I'm ready for it. I'm ready for that.
Yeah. So we gonna make it do what it do, man.
Right. Well, good. Well, no, man, it's always good to end on a real funny note, and that was a great one. And man, we just look forward to it. I invite you to come back, man. Whenever you're doing something, let us know.
Anytime, brother.
We
Anytime.
are
I most
here.
certainly will. I most certainly will. Yeah, you guys got a good podcast, man. I like this. The 2-minute warning. That's what it's called, right?
Yes, sir.
2-minute warning.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
That's nice.
let us know. Yeah, I mean,
Y'all
and you're in a 2-minute warning issue. Yeah.
All right.
All right, man. Appreciate it. To our audience, those of you from from South Carolina, DC, everybody following Travis, thank you for coming. Join us again, even if he's not here. You know, you can do something on your Thursday. And next week, our guest will be Ben Montgomery. If you don't know that name, Ben Montgomery is an author and also a journalist, but Ben lost his job with Axios because he responded to a press release from Governor DeSantis' office and called it propaganda. He told DeSantis' office it was propaganda, and the next thing, that brother was fired from his job at Axios. And so he's going to be with us tonight. Next week, Ben also wrote a book by the name, he was here earlier, I think last season. He wrote a book called A Shot in the Moonlight, which was about Alfred Dennings in Knoxville back in the 1850s, who killed a Ku Klux Klan member as they were coming to burn his house down. And he killed them. And was one of the first cases really in the United States about the castle law, and how he fought to preserve his home even back in the early 1800s. So Ben did that research, but he's going to be back next week again to talk to us about this GOP run of trying to censor our press. So I hope you join us next week. David, I know you're going to be here, my brother.
Oh, yes, sir. Can't wait for that one. Can't wait.
Yeah, and Bobby will be back, and we look forward to seeing you. And again, thanks, Travis, and thanks to all of you for joining us tonight on the 2-minute warning.